Welcome back to the Galen Eagle Podcast, Student Summer Series, Episode 2. I am one of your hosts for today. My name is Enya Lizama. I major in Anthropology and minor in Criminal Justice. And while my time at Galen has been amazing, alas, it is coming to a close with an excellent experience and giving this podcast to you. My fellow co-hosts are...
Hi everybody, welcome back. My name is Marissa Cervantes. And I am also an anthropology major student here at Galen. Interesting to note, we're going to be talking about why weed should be legalized or why it should not be legalized.
Hi everyone, my name is Shantay Torres and this is my 6th semester at Galen and I am majoring in environmental science.
Okay, and as my fellow co-host previously mentioned, today's conversation will be centered on the referendum of marijuana. Also important to note, the referendum is the populace's opportunity to voice their opinion if we should or shouldn't legalize marijuana.
But before we get into the rice and beans of the conversation, I just want to take us back in time so that our viewers and of course us here today present can be aware of how we got here, why we got here, and where we're currently at. So back in 2017, I don't know if you guys remember, but the former administration had decriminalized specifically 10 grams of weed. And so you'll be able to have that in your possession along with the creation of a new hemp industry whereby 0.3% THC was allowed in that content. However, with the decriminalization of weed, it has left some loopholes in the legality of it, right? So yes, I can have 10 grams, but it's still illegal for me to purchase it or even sell it. And so I don't know if you guys remember, but in 2020, the new administration, Honorable Musa had mentioned that, hey, one of the first things we're gonna tackle is the introduction of this new industry, cannabis industry in Belize. And so between November and October of 2021, we saw the Ministry of New Growth Industries, they began to draft amendments to the Misuse of Drugs Act, which would now see the creation of the legal industry for cannabis. And during this period, there was a lot of consultation happening with Minister Musa, CEO Authors, and Mr. Alex Lavin, along with important stakeholders in the Belizean community, such as the Council of Churches, we have the Belize Medical and Dental Association, the police department, and so on. And of course, amendments were introduced and passed in the House of Representatives in October of 2021 with the support of the opposition. And I mean, hey, that's something really exciting, right? Because really, you see the opposition, they agree to what the government have to say. But of course, upon reaching the Senate, social partners, senators requested 3 specific changes, which were primarily 1, that the bill deserves to be a standalone bill, 2, that the composition of the Cannabis Control Commission be mentioned in the bill, and 3, to remove the term narcos expert as being a requirement to be a member of the commission. Of course, after this, the changes were met with the advice of Senator Courtney, Minister Moose, and CEO Authors. And then, they took it and said, okay, do you have any more requirements or any more concerns? And therefore, yes, they stated that, yes, we have furthermore requests from the senators, namely that a list of all the beneficial owners of licenses be made available to the public. And of course, for transparency reasons here in Belize. And that a % of the proceeds from the taxes from the cannabis industry be allocated for rehabilitation programs, educational campaigns on cannabis, free education, social and sporting programs, which are all marvelous things for our society. Up until recently, March of 2022, this year, the bill was passed through the House of Representatives. And of course, the leader of opposition then again restated his public support for the bill. Then at the Senate, after having their requests being met, they then argued against the bill. So I guess that all leads us to here today, whereby a call is now being made for a referendum as to whether a legal industry should be created for cannabis. So with that breakdown being mentioned, Enya, what do you think about all of this? Like, what are your personal opinions on the legalization of weed in Belize?
Well, personally, my first and foremost opinion is that our populace needs to be thoroughly aware and informed before we proceed to do this, because this is our future we are talking about. This is what we are going to leave as a legacy for our children and how they are going to grow up and view. I know myself as a person in Generation Z has had a different experience of those who are millennials as well as those who are baby boomers. These are all things that we have to consider, especially when looking at our society, because it is the composition of our society, how they have experienced it, how they have viewed it, and how it will impact our future generation. So first and foremost, it is all about the information that we relay to them. Shantay, how do you feel about this bill?
Well, the main reason I know that the referendum came around is because the people of Belize want to have a say in this huge decision that we need to make. And it's not something, in my opinion, that we are supposed to be taking at this moment, because there are so many things that Belize need to put in place before we think about making money off of weed, basically. Look at their healthcare facilities. They need more assistance in our mental facilities. We need more assistance, and we are focusing on things that how to say, is not of importance at the moment. So
Yes.
That's my opinion on it.
And that is an excellent take, because especially when looking at mental health, we specifically in Belize don't necessarily have all of the provisions that we need in our healthcare system. It's very much struggling, and trying to see where different aspects of our society are trying to profit off of something that is not a necessity is quite disheartening, as well as looking at what are the negative possibilities that can come from allowing this to be a part of our society. People have very different reactions when being around cannabis. Some people could have a positive, a lovely high that makes them feel like I'm floating, and some people can have like someone is kick them down, push them down into a depressive state and mode, and we don't even have the proper facilities to take care of these people if, God forbid, something happens and they end up with a serious mental illness and a breakdown that we cannot help them physically as a family or as friends, and they need serious health care.
We also have to take into consideration that Belize is already looked upon a country that has a high crime rate and have many like illegal activity already. So I feel like it would maybe have a negative effect on the tourism industry, because people maybe look upon it like, oh, this is a country that already have high murder rate and now they're making weed legal. And that's something that would maybe paint a bad picture on Belize. And we already know that our economy is based on, a huge percentage is based on tourism. So, any more opinions?
I think, just to add to everything, guys, I think, well, I clearly understand the viewpoints. I kind of want to stray away from thinking about weed in this box, right? Let's not think about it as, oh, it's a stoner industry, but try to look at it from a perspective that it's a potential industry whereby we can gain not only economic benefits but medicinal benefits as well. So let's look at it like it's something where healing can take into place. And so I know you mentioned looking at the crime rate and what's not. However, today, with the fact that we have decriminalized the 10 grams, we still have the illegal importation of cannabis in Belize, specifically from our neighbors, Mexico and Guatemala. And so, whether, your personal feelings, whether you dislike it or like it, whether you smoke or you don't smoke, people will continue to smoke it. People are going to continue to sell it. People are going to continue to buy it. And it's something ongoing but illegal. So why not legalize it? And more so, let's look at it from a standpoint that, hey, we can actually, yes, Belize is small in terms of our population, and yes, we have resources, but we don't have a lot of capital, right? However, introducing a new industry can bring the capital needed to cater for awesome healthcare facilities. Not only that, but pump into rehabilitation programs. So, the notion that if weed is legalized in Belize, everybody's gonna turn drug addicts, it's not true. It's not true. Specifically, cannabis, the CBD oil, has awesome medicinal benefits. For instance, it works as anti-seizure medication. Not only so, but a lot of people with depression and anxiety have really benefited from consuming CBD. More so, it helps people
With
that have
muscle aches as
arthritis,
well.
muscle
Yeah.
aches.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of research still needed to be done. So imagine going to Galen and researching about the medicinal benefits of weed. That's pretty awesome. Imagine having a restaurant or a cafe and saying, hey, you know what, make I add a little weed in my little tea or my little cupcake, and people like it. It's a vibe. And not only so, but at the end of the day, we have to think about, the youth of Belize and what do they want? How do they see themselves benefiting from this economy? So besides looking at this from that standpoint, we also have to acknowledge that legalizing marijuana will have certain regulations set in place, right? And one of those being that, hey, you have to be 21 years or older to be able to consume cannabis, right? I think I heard Honorable Musa just today on the radio saying that new science has showed that the development of the brain is no longer impacted by the usage of cannabis at that age, at 21. Right? And so today we see a lot of youngsters smoking weed. It's no secret, right? From their 12, 13, 14, but having this in place, saying that, hey, no, you only get to do it at 21 years and older. I think there's more regulation set in place, because right now we're living in a society where it's culturally, it's accepted, it's informal, it's illegal. Why not put the right measurements in place to really monitor it and regulate it, so that not only us entrepreneurs can benefit, but even the lower class citizens in Belize that actually live on such type of business. So what do you think, Enya?
I personally believe that a non-controlled substance is far more dangerous. So I do agree in legalizing, because, as you said, it will benefit us economically, but as well society-wise. We look at various aspects where people would say, oh, I don't believe in legalizing marijuana because of whether it be religion or because it's just a drug and any drug is bad. We fail to realize that once upon a time, alcohol was a drug before they saw what it was doing to the population and how, as you said, we could change the face of it. Use it for an economic strategy, as well as deterring the young population from being encouraged in this type of lifestyle. And it has honestly turned around, and the legal age for purchasing those, as you said, stringent regulations are what we keep in place and are what I would say guides our society in a certain direction that we would like for Belize to be viewed upon as, where we still maintain a semblance of a societal view. That's why we're having this referendum. We want to look at every single person's view of it and their aspects and take that into consideration before just deciding that this is what's going to happen. Our population is going to be involved, and therefore we're going to have some people that say yes, some people that say no, some people that don't even go out to vote because it's just not what they think they want Belize as, but it is what Belize is growing to be, and that is what we simply have to realize. Whereas marijuana will always be here, it has been around, and as you said before, we see the high benefits that it has for us. And, approval of this is definitely going to change a lot of aspects, whereas we look at many laws that will have to be changed, such as, the organizational work laws, whereas smoking marijuana can affect how your work is being done, and if it's done to an efficient level that your company is looking at. We have to look at how private and public view this. Some companies can decide that, okay, as a private sector, you're not allowed to smoke marijuana. Although it is legal, you have to be very wary of these things that may arise, but they are, again, a part of how society is governed. We have to, as well as look at countries we try to model ourselves off of, which is first world countries. We see that there is a lot of lobbying for legalization of marijuana, as well as using it for all its benefits to the very extreme, as well as we see in a lot of these countries, these drugs are now for the legal use, but we still see there is legal but no selling. And Belize may have a problem with that, as a lot of people are addressing, because of its porosity and how we may just, find our little loopholes around it. But again, it's how stringent our government has to be, and this is why the referendum is important. So I do believe in a strong yes, but as well, it has to be lobbied around a lot of information and how the public is, told about what is good and what is bad, and how these regulations are set in place and how they will govern us and push us forward. And I believe it will be a forward motion moving from this.
And I think, to add to that, Enya, with this forward mentality, I think having this new industry present in Belize, we're gonna benefit a lot, given the fact that, hey, Belize had no heck, and we have amazing soil. We have the perfect conditions to reap what we sow. Therefore, let's think about not only like consuming it here locally, but exporting, weed. I don't know if you guys have heard this before, but, back in the 90s, Belize had one of the best, weed. And so, we can really benefit from this. I think, we're at a point where we can take advantage of this opportunity. Let's be open-minded. Today, like I mentioned, we're still importing marijuana from Mexico, Guatemala illegally, and we have no idea literally what these strains contain.
Exactly.
Right?
That's a point I was gonna say. The probability of a potential threat. That's why I believe it's much better to have it legalized and for us to govern it safely. If you purchase marijuana illegally from a side hustle, what if what you're purchasing, rather than what they're selling legally in the stores or wherever is allowed to distribute them, is laced with something like cocaine or crack? You could easily just be out of your mind in 10 seconds of smoking marijuana. So it's better to be, like you said, on the safer side.
But not only cocaine and crack, but a lot of farmers use fertilizers and chemicals, right, to pump up the THC content. And so exactly, we don't know, what is it that we're getting, what is it that we're smoking. So I think I'm more concerned with, like, one, climate change. Let's invest in smart farming. And two, safe farming, where we get to know, okay, what exactly we're smoking, where did it came from, where was it grown, if it's imported, how was it grown, because from what I understand, all the seedlings and everything that is reaped will be tagged. So I mean, that's amazing. Today, whenever you're eating, you want to know where the fish came from, you want to know what is in the rice, you want to know what's in the salad. So similarly with this, but overall, I think there's endless of possibilities. I think Belizeans just need to be creative. We have a lot of talent, and I'm pretty sure that, the youth of this country is definitely going to take advantage of this potential opportunity.
Back to what I have said previously, I just don't believe it's something that we should focus on at the moment. I understand, as Marissa said, that people are gonna smoke weed regardless of if it's legal or illegal, but that doesn't mean that we're not supposed to have laws to maybe wrong it to say, all right, you're not supposed to do this or whatever. Because same thing with crime, are we supposed to legalize crime just because crime is taking place, and no matter what we do it won't stop? So
I think we have to again look at it from a different perspective. Why is there so much crime happening? One, all these drug smugglers, drug traffickers risk their lives daily, in the illegal importation. And two, we have a lot of murders in Belize as a stem from the illegal trade of cannabis, right? Especially with the upcoming, the gang rivalries and what's not. So why not understand that part of society and say, you know what, let's legalize this thing, and hey, adjust you or accommodate you into the system so that we can actually benefit from this, right? And I think once doing that, you empower these individuals, right? Because if today you tell a dir, why you want to go to school, he's gonna say, no, I don't want to go to school. He's making his lifestyle selling $5 weed, $10 weed, right? So why not actually, incorporate these individuals, give them a sense of dignity, and say, hey,
you can go to Galen on a scholarship studying the medicinal purposes of marijuana. Something to that effect will definitely blossom our future generations and how they view a positive impact, and as well change people's current mindset towards, the negative outlooks that we have on marijuana. Predominantly in this referendum, we are seeing a lobbying for a negative vote saying that we shouldn't. And this is coming a lot from, the churches and them stemming that, oh, this is something that should not be done. But do they really know? Does the society really know what is the background information that we're trying to relay to them, and what could be the potential future benefits?
I think, we're living in the 21st century where various countries have indeed legalized cannabis, and they have progressed in a very harmonious way whereby citizens are no longer being harassed and jailed and are being victims of a racist system, and instead are empowered and are entrepreneurs, and have now, especially single mothers, have now benefited from this new industry and have sincerely made a life for themselves, whereby they no longer are committing crimes, but instead they're developing their nations. And I think similarly for Belize, we can do the same.
Don't you think that we are trying to, the reason why we're pushing for the legalization of weed is because we're trying to copy more countries like America? Because Belize have this tendency that because America is doing it, we're doing it. And do you think that is why the people of Belize are influenced so much, is because we're trying to take something that we see a bigger countries taking to become like them in helping us to develop them?
I believe that it is no lie that we very much try to mimic these first world countries, predominantly the United States, because it is one of the closest, but as well, it has shown us a lot of good, whereas Belizeans have a tendency to only look at the bad. And I personally believe that going in detail in what the United States have done, doing the proper research and having informed decisions, as well as, showing their society and their community, this is what is the good of marijuana, and this can potentially be the bad. And it has shown, as Marissa said, to be very progressive for their country and very excellent in terms of putting a harmonious output. And I believe this is what Belize needs, a harmonious output regardless of social stature, regardless of race, religion, economic status. All we need is for this referendum to, yes, happen, because it will happen regardless, just as cannabis will always be around, and it will definitely ensure that Belizeans have a say in what's happening in their country. And all we have to do at this point is wait and see the results, because we want further progression, and this is one of the few steps to taking that progress.
We just have to see what the people decide, because that's the main reason we're going to do the referendum, to see what majority of the population is going to say about this. And I think that will just give us a more understanding of who wants this to stay illegal and who wants it to stay legal.
To go back to your question, Enya, throughout studying anthropology here at Galen, I've come across development and what it actually is in an indigenous perspective. And so I don't want to go ahead and say, give weed a negative connotation. I don't even like saying marijuana, because that term was coined in a manner to say that, hey, marijuana is a drug that makes you get crazy, and it's for, it was very racist at the time. But I want to go ahead and say that, Asia in history was one of the first countries at the time to find marijuana or use it, whether it may be for its spiritualistic or medicinal or recreational aspect. However, long ago, Belizeans, used marijuana, but it was until, we were colonized and, the white man came here and said, you know what, guys, at the end of the day, like, marijuana is bad, so don't use that. Instead, use cigarette, because, they wanted to make a business out of cigarettes. And so I think we just have to look at it in a way that, it's a plant. And, whatever we do with it, it's really up to us. But I think, again, like you said, Belize is a very small country, a very small population. And yes, we have other societal ills. But one of the things that I would like to see enforced is parenting along with this. So guys, it was really fun to talk about this. I know it got really heated over the subject. I enjoyed it for sure. I hope our viewers enjoyed it. And so, whether indeed the referendum is passed or not, I really just hope that the young people of Belize, can come out and start to voice their opinions, whether they approve or disapprove. So it's very important to have that political participation throughout the state. And so with that said, I will leave the last comments to Enya and Shantay.
Yeah, I really had a great time with you all discussing this and just having our different views on this topic. And if this referendum takes place, just make sure you go and vote and make sure you get your say in this, because if it stays illegal or it turns they legalize this drug, at least you said you put your part in it.
Okay. And for, I would say, all of us, the important points that we note to remember are, to make this change happen, we want to be sure that we are coming from an informed standpoint, and that everyone is first and foremost responsible for themselves. So whether it's a yes or a no, we still have the choice to make this decision. Thank you everyone for tuning in to the second episode of the Galen Eagle podcast, the Student Summer Series. Catch us on Thursdays.
Same time.
Same place.